Yeah, okay. Let me get it straight here. Okay. The recent nuclear accident in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, alerts the public there will be more and more such occurrences, since the incidence of accidents will always increase with the number of plants in operation over a period of time, stupidity and negligence remaining constants. Now, the difference between nuclear and other disasters is not just that the initial or directly sequential casualties could be vastly higher, running into the hundreds of thousands. Much more crucial is the issue of long-range cumulative damage to the human genetic pool. And responsible biologists bluntly warn it's dirty enough already. This is something none of the apologists for nuclear power want to talk about or hear about. I recollect 2 years ago in Newcastle-on-Tyne, I was on a panel with a Dr. Pike, called himself a scientist. And he was defending, in fact extolling the expansion of nuclear installations. Responsible politicians know what they are doing. Nuclear power plants in England have a splendid safety record. They seem to consider it a purely local issue. And I said to him, well, Dr. Pike, as a scientist yourself, you are doubtless acquainted with the fruit fly experiments, in which generations of fruit flies exposed to radiation have clearly demonstrated that there are no favorable mutations resulting from such radiation levels as would be massively released in a major industrial accident. The fruit flies all mutated, to be sure, wouldn't you? And all the mutations observed were unfavorable, grossly unfavorable. Just let me ask you one question, Doctor. Do you want to see your own daughter born with two cunts? So this accident blows over. What about the next one, and the one after that? And the steady leak of low-level radiation as folks go around moaning, load, load. I don't even feel like a human. And the cancer rate goes up and up and up. No doubt about it. The increase in low-level radiation is one of the heaviest factors in the increased incidence of cancer. An intrepid reporter investigating this correlation contracted leukemia and lost all his hair in the service. I saw him on TV. Now, if we see the Earth as a spaceship and go further to invoke a comparison of a lifeboat, it is a vital concern to all of us in this lifeboat. If the officers pollute the supply of food and water, distribute supplies on a grossly inequitable basis, or worst of all, conspire to blow the boat out from under us. And what more blatant evidence of a knower conspiracy than the development and use of an atom bomb in the first place? As the founding father Philip Oppenheimer said, we have become Shiva, destroyer of worlds. He said it on TV and wiped a tear out of the corner of his eye. And various top brasses appeared to say it was a very difficult decision. They're talking about the decision to drop the atom bomb on Hiroshima. And I thought, God defend us all from a difficult decision in the Pentagon. Nobody does more harm than folks who feel bad about doing it. Now, at the time these difficult decisions were being made, top physicists, including Oppenheimer, entertained the possibility of a chain reaction igniting the atmosphere. However, he decided it was worth taking that chance to end the war and save white lives. Now, the present-day apologists of nuclear power are leaning very far in the other direction. No, not a single death or serious injury. Not true, incidentally. Well, there is some danger, but look at all the people killed in cars What are you going to do? Take people's cars away from them? It's a calculated risk. A calculated risk, is it? Well, whose calculations? A Russian scientist has said we will travel not only in space but in time as well. And that's what I'm doing in the gay gun going back to the 19th century. Now let us go back 100 years. Back to the days of pure air and clean water. Passenger pigeons abound in the woodlands of America. Buffalo graze on the western plains. You can walk into any drugstore and buy opium, morphine, cocaine, hashish extract. The prudent trapper stocks a pint of laudanum for the long, lonely Alaskan winter under the northern lights. Back to the days when a silver dollar bought a sumptuous meal or a good piece of ass. Back to the days before mealy-mouthed lying politicians were taking calculated risks with your future, the future of your species, and the future of your planet. This is from the novel in progress, tentatively entitled The Gay Gun. There's a smell in the air after a thunderbolt hits. It's one of those archetype smells, like the smell of the sea and the smell of opium. One whiff and you never forget it. Once Kim Carsons and Jerry Ellisor, the retarded boy from next door, saw lightning strike the cornice of the old school building outside St. Albans. The smell so heavy you could see it drifting from the shattered bricks in the violet haze. And the boys went crazy with the smell, like a cat with catnip. They strip off their clothes and caper around, turning cartwheels and grinning out between their legs and screaming to the sky, "Smell me!" And Jerry's slinky black hound dog throws back its head and howls. Lightning popping all around them, the sky gets blacker and blacker, with just a line of bright green around the rim. And next thing we are snatching up our clothes and running for the cyclone cellar, bricks from the school bouncing all around us. We both shit ourselves when the twister ripped the cellar door off, and the house went up like matchsticks. And when we came up out of the cellar, the house is clean gone, with Jerry's bedfasted grandmother, who had been alone in the house at the time since Arch and Ma were in town for their monthly shopping, and Jerry was supposed to look after the old stink bag, as he called her. Maybe it dropped her in the river, Jerry said, as they poured hot water over each other in the sauna and washed the shit off. Everybody was glad to see the last of her. She'd been clean out of her mind the past 5 years, her breasts all eaten away with the cancer. And Arch kept buying more morphine to finish her off, but she had such a strength for it no amount would kill her. And Arch said it was like buying feed for a hog. She's a moral hole in the worst form there is, no bottom to her. Well, leastwise, she don't eat much, Ma said, and half a cup of soup a day. She can't last much longer on that. And Jerry pipes up. I heard about an old saint woman who lived 20 years, and all she ever eated was a holy wafer on a Sundays. And Arch just looks at him and says, "You know any more stories like that?" "Sure, plenty. Why, this one old biddy lived 40 years after the doctor said." And Arch whoops him alongside the head with a rucko handle. Jerry took Kim in to see Grandma once, and she reminded Kim of an old rock covered with leeching, and he thought she could live forever like that. Now, the sauna was erected by a Finnish boy, witched wells and did tinkering jobs, and he had put a Finn magic on it because he had the power. Nobody could say his real name, so they all called him Sinky, for Helsinki, where all the Finns is born at. This Sinky had bright red hair, and one eye was blue and the other brown. Kim recollects when the sauna is finished, Sinky and Jerry and Kim is the first to get the cleaning in it. They didn't have to worry about Arch and Ma butting in. They was both taking the morphine and taking it heavy. Only way they could stand up for the aggravations of Grandma. When the morphine run out of her any hour of the day or night, she let out a bellow, and Arch could hear it clear to the end of his cornfield. Well, Sinky rubs his long, red, pointed dick, and Jerry grins his buck teeth bare, so we all get hard and jerk off with a smell like fucking ferrets. And Sinky draws a circle on the floor with a jism and says something in Finn talk and tells us he has put a magic on the sauna and will last the house out. But when Arch and Ma got back, they was glad enough to have the house gone so long as Granny went with it. And they built in another spot to escape the hand of her. When the moon is full, you can hear her bellowing from the old house side. And the sauna is there to this day. Nobody uses it. Arch and Ma is like cats with a morphine. Can't stand the feel of water on themselves. Jerry Ellisor, the retarded boy from next door, went on to harass timid wasps from New Yorker cartoons. The type of person who doesn't want to get mixed up in things. A passerby on the other side. Here's a girl with both arms cut off trying to flag him down. He just swerves around something like that and keeps going. And I refer to the case of the 15-year-old girl who had both arms cut off by a rapist. Rushed onto a highway, and 3 cars passed her by before one stopped and took her to the hospital. A friend of mine, Kells Elvins, was doing 90 in his town and country Chrysler on the way from far Texas to Laredo. He comes up over a rise, and there is a fucking cow right in the middle of the road on a bridge. He slams on the brake and hits the cow doing 60. The car flips over and he is pinned under it with a broken collarbone, covered from head to foot with blood and guts and cow shit. So along comes a car with some wasp salesmen in it. They get out kind of reluctantly. He tells them how to jack the car up, but when they see blood, they don't want to know. They don't get mixed up in anything like that. Blood and dirt all over him. No control over himself. Get back in their car and drive away. They want to get their car dirty. When a truck driver comes along, he doesn't need to be told. He knows exactly what to do. Gets the car off Kells and takes him to a hospital. So here is this youngish exec wasp in a health food store after a diet lunch of watercress salad and carrot juice. And a youth sits down right at his table, though it's 3 o'clock and the place is nearly empty. The wasp becomes aware of a horrible odor like ferrets, only more piercing. Makes his eyes water and his stomach turn. The boy smiles, showing yellow buck teeth. I always smell like this just before, you know. The boy cat passes him a card on which is typed in red letters. Hi, I'm Jerry. These are my instructions. When it starts to happen, stay calm. Sit down wherever you are and quietly inform the person nearest to you, the helpful person nearest to you, that you're going to throw a fit. In my own words, when it starts, you will wrap a handkerchief, towel, or napkin around your finger and insert it in my mouth to keep me from biting my tongue off. With the other hand, you will be loosening my collar, belt, and shoes and opening up my fly to relieve pressure on the groin. Erections frequently occur during my spells. It's a fact of nature. Be careful during my recovery, as I sometimes lash out at people or leap your throat like a wild animal. God will reward you for your kind acts. Your humble servant, Jerry Ellisor. Without more ado, thank you. Without more ado, the wasp threw some money on the table and ran for his life. But he was too late. With a low, throaty cry, the boy threw himself in the wasp's path, tripping him up, then wrapped around his legs like a python. There was a sudden reek of urine and excrement as Jerry voided in his pants. The appalled wasp, seeing a policeman at the door, screamed for help. What have you done with that kid, you filthy pervert? A nightstick crashed against his skull. 5 hours later, trembling and near collapse, he was released from jail after his lawyer called his CIA cousin in Washington. In the course of a fit, Jerry would sometimes shriek out prophecies which mostly came true. On Red Tuesday, he rushed into the stock market, tore off his clothes, and stood there naked in front of the petrified financiers. His body brick red and steaming off the stink of 100 polecats. He collapsed on the floor, flopping around and showing his awful yellow teeth as he ejaculated, "Sell, sell, sell." It was the worst crash since 29. Dazed brokers and speculators later reported, "It was a voice full of money. You had to believe it." Okay. The terrible fit boy, as he was called, was allotted a handsome remittance to stay out of the financial district. He went on to train a whole troop of fit boys who terrorized the WASP community and exacted a huge tribute. This is also from the gay gun entitled Progressive Education. When Kim was 15, his father allowed him to withdraw from the school because he was so unhappy there and so much disliked by the other boys and their parents. "I don't want that boy in the house again," said Colonel Greenfield. "He looks like a sheep-killing dog." "It is a walking corpse," said a poisonous St. Louis matron. "The boy is rotten clear through and he stinks like a polecat," Judge Ferris pontificated. This was true. When excited or frightened, Kim steamed off a rank, ruddish animal smell. "The child is not wholesome," said Mr. Kindheart with his usual restraint. Kim was the most unpopular boy in the school, if not in the town of St. Louis. "They have nothing to teach you anyway," his father said. "Why, the headmaster is a fucking priest." His father had an extensive and eclectic library, and Kim spent much of his time reading during the winter months. There were a number of medical books which Kim read avidly. He loved to read about diseases, rolling and savoring the names on his tongue. Tabes dorsalis, Friedrich's ataxia, climactic boo-boos. And the pictures, the poisonous pinks and greens, yellows and purples of skin diseases. Rather like the objects in those Catholic stores that sell shrines and Madonnas and crucifixes and religious pictures. Kim thought maybe he would study medicine and become a doctor. But while he liked diseases, he didn't like sick people. And the thought of delivering babies was enough to turn a man to stone. His father had a large collection of books on magic and the occult, and Kim drew magic circles in the basement and tried to conjure up demons. His favorites were abominations like Humwawa, whose face is a mass of entrails and who rides on a whispering south wind, and Pazuzu, lord of fevers and plagues, and especially Gilil and Lilith, who invade the beds of men. Because he did sometimes experience a vivid sexual visitation he hoped was an incubus. He knew that the horror of these demon lovers was a gloomy Christian thing. In Japan, there are phantom whores known as fox maidens who are highly prized, and the man who can get his hands on a fox maiden is considered lucky. He felt sure there were fox boys as well. Such creatures could assume the form of either sex. Once he made sex magic against Judge Ferris. He nailed a full-length picture of the judge taken from the society page to the wall and masturbated in front of it while he recited a jingle he had learned from a Welsh nanny. Slip and stumble, lips peel back from his teeth, trip and fall, his eyes light up inside, down the stairs and hit the wall. His hair stands up on end, he whines and whimpers and howls the word out and shoots all over the judge's leg. And Judge Ferris actually did fall downstairs a few days later and fractured his shoulder bone. The judge swore that a scrawny, stinking red dog that must have gotten in through the basement window suddenly jumped out at him on the stairs with a most peculiar smile on its face, too, showing all its teeth, wrapped its paws around his leg, tripping him up, so that he fell and hit his shoulder against the wall at the landing. No one believed him except Kim, and Kim knew that he had succeeded in projecting a thought form. But he was not overly impressed. The judge was dead drunk every night, and he was always falling down. Magic seemed to him a hit-and-miss operation, and to tell the truth, a bit silly. Guns and knives were more reliable. Kim Carson's training as a shootist begins. He meets a wise old assassin whispering Kes Mayfield. "Uncle Kes, this is Kim Carson's." The old man spoke in a dead, dry whisper. "Your hand and your eyes know a lot more about shooting than you do. Just learn to stand out of the way." Now his empty old eyes, unbluffed, unreadable, rest on Kim as if tracing his outline in the air. "City boy, did you ever see a dog rolling carrion?" "Yes, sir. I was tempted to join him, sir." "Did you ever see a black snake pretend to be a rattlesnake?" The scene flashed in front of Kim's eyes. Jerry Ellisor and Kim had chased and cornered a 6-foot black snake. It was a fall day, dead leaves on the ground. The snake coiled itself, opened its mouth, vibrating the tip of its tail in the dry leaves. Both boys saw immediately what was happening. "He's pretending to be a rattlesnake, trying to scare us off. How does he know enough to do that?" "What do you think, Kim?" the old man asked. "Do you think he once saw a rattlesnake scare someone?" "No, sir. I think he just knows about other snakes." "Kim, if you had your choice, would you rather be a poisonous snake or a non-poisonous snake?" "Oh, poisonous, sir, like a green mamba or a spitting cobra." "Why?" "I'd feel safer, sir." "And that's your idea of heaven, feeling safer?" "Yes, sir." "Is a poisonous snake really safer?" "Not really, but he must feel good after he bites someone." "Safer?" "Yes, sir. Dead people are less frightening than live ones." "Young man, I think you're an assassin." "I want to be one, sir." Kim recruits a band of flamboyant and picturesque outlaws called the Wild Fruits. There's the crying gun who breaks into tears at sight of his opponent. "What's the matter? Somebody take your lollipop?" "Oh, senor, I am sorry for you." And the priest who goes into a gunfight giving his adversary the last rites. And the blind gun who zeroes in with bat squeaks. Kim trains his men to identify themselves with death. He takes some rookie guns out to a dead horse rotting in the sun, eviscerated by vultures who are snapping intestines out of each other's mouths, their red eyes fierce and impersonal. They flop away heavy with carrion. Kim points to the horse steaming there in the noonday heat. "All right, roll in it." "What?" "Roll in it like dogs of war. Get the stink of death into your chaps and your boots and your guns and your hair." Most of us puked at first, but we got used to it, and vultures follow us around hopefully. We always ride into town with the wind behind us. The town people gag and retch. "My God, what's that stink?" "It's the stink of death, citizens." Here's the big shootout with old man Bickford's guns. 60 of the best that money can buy. They wait in a charity saloon. A 15-year-old carrot top sticks his head in. "Here they come." 50 horsemen are approaching with the speed of a tornado, a whirling black cloud of vultures above them, beaks snapping. Rock and roll adolescent hoodlums storm the streets of all nations. They rush into the Louvre, throw acid in the Mona Lisa's face. They open zoos, insane asylums, prisons, burst water mains with air hammers, chop the floor out of passenger plane lavatories, shoot out lighthouses, turn sewers into the water supply, throw sharks and stingrays and electric eels into swimming pools. In nautical costumes, they ram the Queen Mary full speed into New York Harbor. Rush into hospitals in white coats carrying saws and axes and scalpels 3 feet long. Throw paralytics out of iron lungs and mimic their suffocation, flopping around on the floor and rolling their eyes up. Administer injections with bicycle pumps. Disconnect artificial kidneys. Saw a woman in half with a 2-man surgical saw. They drive herds of squealing pigs into the commodity exchange. They shit on the floor of the United Nations and wipe their asses with treaties, pacts, alliances. Please to be restful. It is only a few crazies who have from the crazy place outbroken. Thank you. This piece entitled In Last Resort, The Truth, written in 1968 after I'd been to the Democratic Convention in Chicago. And in this piece, a purple-ass baboon becomes a presidential candidate. Not so remote. Nobody wants the job now, I don't think. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my coveted privilege and deep honor to introduce to you the distinguished Senator and former Justice of the Supreme Court, Homer Mandrill, known to his many friends as the Purple Bedouin. No doubt most of you are familiar with a book called African Genesis, written by Robert Ardrey, a native son of Chicago, and I may add a true son of America. I quote from Mr. Ardrey's penetrating work. When I was a boy in Chicago, I attended the Sunday school of a neighborhood Presbyterian church. I recall our Wednesday night meetings with the simplest nostalgia. We would meet in the basement. There would be a short prayer and a shorter benediction. We'd turn out all the lights and in total darkness hit each other with chairs. Mr. Ardrey's early training tempered his character to face and make known the truth about the origins and nature of mankind. Not in innocence and not in Asia was mankind born. The home of our fathers was the African highland, on a sky-swept savanna glowing with menace. The most significant of all our gifts was the legacy bequeathed us by our immediate forebears, a race of terrestrial, flesh-eating killer apes. Raymond A. Dart of the University of Johannesburg was the strident voice from South Africa that would prove the southern ape to be the human ancestor. Dart put forward the simple thesis that man emerged from the anthropoid background for one reason only, because he was a killer. And he said that since we had tried everything else, we might in last resort try the truth. Man's original nature imposes itself on any human solution. The aggressive southern apes, glowing with menace, fought your battles on the perilous velds of Africa 500,000 years ago. Had he not done so, you would not be living here in this great city, in this great land of America, raising your happy families in peace and prosperity. Who more fitted to represent our glorious Simian heritage than Homer Mandrill, himself a descendant of that illustrious line? Who else can restore to this nation the spirit of true conservatism that imposes itself on any human solution? Actually, there can be only one candidate, the purple better one, your future president. This is the space age. We are here to go. The space program has been restricted to a mediocre elite who at great expense have gone to the moon in an aqualung. They aren't really looking for space, they're looking for more time, just as the lungfish and the walking catfish weren't looking for a new dimension, they were looking for more water. But some of them found that they had, for better or for worse, taken an irretrievable forward step and left their gills to their maker. As we leave the aqualung of time, we may step into an epoch comparable to the days when the early mariners set out to explore unknown continents. I can see all manner of spacecraft, some obviously lethal, preparing to take off. Only those who are willing to leave everything they have ever known behind need apply. It is necessary to travel. It is not necessary and becoming increasingly difficult to live. The aggressive southern ape, glowing with menace, may block your way to space. That is precisely his function. The human species is about 1 million years old. Only 30,000 years have been accounted for. It's a long question mark. Perhaps a number of previous civilizations disappeared, destroyed by destructive use of a technology that could have led to the exploration of space. Instead, the human species reverted to its glorious simian heritage. It could happen again if we let that ape take the wheel. The lavatory has been locked for 3 hours solid. I think they're using it for an operating room. Nurse: I can't feel her pulse, doctor. Dr. Benway: cardiac arrest, God damn it. He looks around, picks up one of those rubber vacuum cups at the end of a stick they use to unstop toilets. He advances on the patient. Make an incision, Dr. Limp, he says to his appalled assistant. I'm going to massage the heart. Dr. Limp shrugs and begins the incision. Dr. Benway washes the suction cup by swishing it around the toilet bowl. Nurse: shouldn't it be sterilized, doctor? Dr. Benway: very likely, but there's no time. He sits on the suction cup like a cane seat, watching his assistant make the incision. You young squirts couldn't lance a pimple without an electric vibrating scalpel with automatic drain and suture. Soon we'll be operating by remote control on patients we never see. We'll be nothing but button pushers. All the skill is going out of surgery. All the know-how and make-do. Did I ever tell you about the time I performed an appendectomy with a rusty sardine can? And once I was caught short without instrument 1 and removed an uterine tumor with my teeth. Now, that was in the upper effendi, and besides, the wench is dead. Dr. Limp: the incision is ready, doctor. Dr. Benway forces the cup into the incision and works it up and down. Blood spurts all over the doctors, the nurse, the wall. The cup makes a horrible sucking sound. Nurse: I think she's gone, doctor. Dr. Benway: well, it's all in a day's work. He walks across the room to a medicine cabinet. Some fucking drug addict has cut my cocaine with Sandy Flush. Nurse: send a boy out to fill this RX on the double.